Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today you and your friends will be experiencing wonderful trips, visiting fantastic destinations, and meeting lovely people all over the globe while becoming the seasoned traveler you've always dreamed of being. Trekking the World 2nd Edition is for 1 to 5 players. It plays from 30 to 60 minutes for ages 10 and up and is published by Underdog Games. Now this is a complete redesign from the 1st edition, and that 1st edition actually won my Game of the Year for Family Games in 2020, but they've redesigned everything to improve it. Now it's being crowdfunded right now. So I'm going to show you how the game works and I'll see you on the other side. This is a crowdfunding preview, so all the art and components you see here are not final, these are prototypes, but to see all the most up-to-date art and components, check the link in the description of this video. I first want to point out this board, how it's not just a flat board, it actually looks like a globe because you're going to be traveling around the whole entire globe with the different continents and such, and it just is a nice touch to the game there. Now here I have us a couple turns in. We actually have 5 players here. They all happen to be situated in different cities around the world. The object of the game is to have the most points in the end, and there's 3 main ways to get points. One of them is to go on tours at some of these locations here, where you're going to spend some money, go on a tour, and get those points, but you have to be in that exact location when you're spending the money to go on that tour. Another way to score points are through encounters at certain locations around the world as well, as some of those are going to give you end game points depending on what you've done throughout the game. And the last way to score points is by gaining different types of souvenirs, and for each column you've done that, as far as you've gone, that's how many points you'll get. So you're doing a little bit of set collection, but doing it in an even way as well. So on your turn, the first thing you'll do is you'll pick one of these itinerary cards. You can pick any of these 4 or this one. So let's say you take this one. You're going to do what this says from top to bottom. First, you're going to move 1. So first we'll move 1, and you can move from where you are into any spot like this, but let's say I move right here into this side. Now notice this is a green region and it is South America. Then we'll get this much money. It's like stopping at the ATM there while I'm in that location. And so I'm going to get 3 money like this. Now, if we're in this continent or this area of the world here, and we are, because we were in South America, the green one it shows you here, you're going to get a souvenir. In this case, it's a red souvenir. And there's a nice tray to hold all the souvenirs and the tokens, and it is sort of beveled to fit right snugly up against the rounded board edge there. In this case, we got a red souvenir. Now it's going to cover this, which is important because you always go from left to right, and we're going to get an itinerary token of that type. Now you actually even start with one of the airplanes. These are going to help you sort of break some of the rules of the game. Both of these have to do with movement. I'll show you those in just a moment. But again, souvenirs are going to be getting you different types of itinerary tokens, but again, for every column you fill, the furthest column you have filled is how many points you'll get at the end of the game as well. Now after you finish that, you might be able to gain one of these encounter cards, but only if you're in the exact spot of the card. Like for this one, Bolivia, this is this exact location. It shows the general area that it is. There's some flavor text, and then it has an ability, but let's look at this. I happen to be there. And as you can see, here I am, I'm right there. So I get to take this, and anytime on a future turn, I can use this as a special ability. You can use as many as you want here on future turns. For example, this one says, for your turn, wipe the itinerary row and replace it with new ones and gain $3. Because at the end of your turn, any cards that you've taken are going to be getting refilled from the deck, and again, next time you move, you might not want any of these. You might want to wipe these and use that special ability, get some money, get a card that you really want. So you can see that there's a lot of sort of comboing going together, depending on all the different abilities you might be able to get here. Now let's talk a little bit more about movement. It would be the next player's turn now. Now this player, you can move through or even land on another player. That is actually fine in this, another big difference from the original version. So you could, move through like this. You cannot double back. You can't go 1, 2, 3. Essentially you can't go back to a spot they've already been this turn. Now look at this airport. Let's say we go 1 to here. And then for $1, you can go from any airport to any other airport for a movement. So my second movement would just spend $1 and go here. Let's say a third movement, go there. So you can move through the airports for $1, helping you move around the world quite a bit. And you also notice that some of the spots go off and it tells you where it goes on the other side. And on that other side, it kind of shows you where it comes from. Now let's show you a turn a little later in the game to show you how some of the comboing works in the game. Let's say this is me and I'm way over here. Let's say this is how my board looks, this is how much money I have, these are some of the itinerary tokens I've gotten from placing the souvenir cubes here. Now let's say I want to use this. I can use this before I take an itinerary card to fly to any airport for free. So let's say I spend that. And I'm going to use that to move all the way to this airport. Then we're going to take this card, which is the one that's on the top of the deck. We're going to activate this one. Now, there's a few things I'm going to show you about this one. This one says move 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, let's say we wanted to get to Old Havana. Well, I have one of these, and this allows you to add 1 to a movement. So I'm going to spend that itinerary token and use it to actually move 4. So I've moved across the entire globe just at this point. Now, normally I would get 2 money, but I have this token. This allows me to double the amount of money I'm going to get. So instead of getting 2, I'm going to get 4, so now I'll have 6. So we have that on our dial. Now, because we ended in this continent, we normally would get this yellow souvenir token, but we have this. And this allows you to double the ones that you would normally get. So we could spend this, and now instead of getting 1 of those souvenirs, we're getting 2 of them. First one goes here. Second one is going to cover another $sign, which means we're getting another one of these back to be used on a future turn. Now, after you finish your itinerary card, if you want to, you can go on a tour. So here we are at Old Havana. It costs $9 to go on this tour. It's going to be worth 22 points, but remember, we only have $6. But let's say earlier, we went into an encounter here. And this gave us the ability to take a tour for $3 less, then gain a souvenir of any color. So great, I would discard this card. This one's only 6. I'll spend my 6. I'll get this. And this will get me 22 points at the end of the game. So you're pretty much doing an itinerary card, and then possibly you might go have an encounter and grab the encounter card, or go on a tour there. Now, the cool thing about these cards are they're double-sided, and it's this one says the Galapagos Islands, right? It's $9, a tour for 22 points. On the back side, it would be one of these. So at the beginning of the game, you're shuffling these cards. Half the deck are going to be encounters, and the other half are going to be tours there. And so it's kind of interesting that you have this deck that is used for 2 different reasons, depending on how it splits at the beginning of the game. It gives the game a lot of variability there. Now, the game will end based on a certain amount of tours. Now, if you look at the top there, you'll see we have 4 tours done. Now, in a 4- and 5-player game, that triggers the end of the game, and you just finish the round so everyone has taken an even number of turns. If you're playing with 2 or 3 players, it ends when someone has their 5th tour. So at the end of the game, you're going to add up all the points from all your tours. You're going to look at your suitcase and look at the furthest column that you finished. In this case, it's here. It's just 10. But this one says at game's end, if you have 6 points if I have 0 or 1 itinerary tokens. I don't have any, so I get 6 more. This one says at the end, 10 points if you have fewer than 20 on your suitcase. So I got 10 for this. So you'd add up all those points. Whoever has the most is the winner. And the game does come with a score pad, so it's easy to tabulate everyone's scores. Now, also new in the 2nd edition is a solo mode. There's 4 levels of difficulty: easy, medium, hard, and extreme. And you're going to need to get a certain amount of tours that will cost a certain amount of money. You're going to need to get a certain amount of points in your suitcase goal, meaning you're going to need a certain amount of souvenirs. And also, if you're going to be in areas where other solo opponents are, you have to pay taxes in order to do encounters there. So things get a little bit more costly as well. And as you can see, huge difference between easy and medium as to how many tours and the cost of them, how much it costs to do encounters where other players are, and the suitcase goes double. So it ranges there, and these cards are sort of double-sized, so you can pick one of your 4 levels. Now, I'm not going to go over all the solo rules, but generally speaking, you take turns as normal, and then the solo has a deck. It tells them which opponent color to move, and what we'll do is if this one is not on the board, you're going to place them on the board, and you're going to do so in the location in this encounter row. And you're going to do it in the furthest left card that does not already have an opponent there. So if there's nobody at the Coliseum, because this is the furthest left, they would go into that location on the board. However, if there was already an opponent at Coliseum, but there was nobody here, they would go to this location. So it's always the furthest left that doesn't already have an opponent. That's where they'd go for now. Next time this color card comes up, so there's going to be other opponents going, but if that other player, the brown one that was on the Coliseum, comes up again and you haven't yet gotten this, well, then they take it. They take it off to the side, it gets refilled, and then this guy comes off the board. So they're either coming on the board, going on to a location that's there, or if they're already there, they take it. So it's sort of a pressure for you to be able to get things faster. So generally speaking, you'll win if you fulfill all your tours and your suitcase goal, but you'll lose if the opponent gets 7 encounters or the draw deck finishes, sort of a timer, if you will. And if you do win, you actually get a score, which is you'll be scoring in addition to the normal points. You're also going to be scoring 1 point for every souvenir that's past the line you needed to get, and 1 point per leftover dollar and itinerary token you didn't have. So then you're going to be, did you win a certain difficulty level? Yes. Well, what was your score? So you have 2 sort of levels of things that you're tracking. Whether you have Trekking the World 2nd edition, as I mentioned in the overview, 1st edition made my family game of the year back in 2020, and they redesigned the entire thing and added a solo version that wasn't even there in the 1st edition. So as I showed in the overview, you're going to be puzzling together the combination of your movement and your money while trying to gain souvenirs and take tours at specific destinations. Now if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video. Now that's going to take you to the crowdfunding page, and I'm sure that Underdog Games would love your support.